long day. So we are going to kind of follow on from the work that Travis and Ashley just spoke about. We've had a partnership with DPM for quite some time, and it's fed into a lot of the work and the development of our program. So we have some core elements to the work that we do, and it is to capture parents and young people in different ways. So sometimes the young people don't really engage with the supports. We work with parents to try and, I guess, have some kind of outcomes for the family. So we have an early steps approach, which is a brief 10-hour response to the family. So it's really around the assessment of the family situation, but also risk and safety planning and linkages to key services. We have a sustained approach where we work with the family as a whole. So we do work with the adolescents and parent and caregivers and other siblings as well. We have a parent education model. So I guess it's, the big great thing today is that it's really a similar approach to the work that we're doing across the state, the same things and support for families in caring. And so for us, that's an 8-week sort of therapeutic parent education model that hopefully we support parents to implement some of those strategies that Travis and Ashley were talking about earlier. And then we have a group work model as well. So we have a parent group and an adolescent group as well. So a bit of background about our assessment tool. So we've got Deacon on board to evaluate the work we're doing and step up building our relationships program. And through this evaluation, we came into play through pre and post assessments that we now continue to use. It captures data for our program, feeds into the development level, so the research into this area, but it also really helps us understand the complexities of the work. So I guess the first evaluation will help us look at how we adapt our model to support families in that younger cohort, which is really, I guess, looking at how we work with parents and families as a whole. Using the evidence that we've gained across our evaluation and more broadly here within this setting, we've evolved to incorporate different things such as training of the regulation, co-regulation, communication, de-escalation, adolescent development, really importantly, and trauma awareness. So current research program we're doing now evaluates the effectiveness of the work that we're doing in actually reducing the violent and aggressive behaviours. So the tool itself, I heard earlier, I think it was AVITH talking about some of the scales that they're using in their assessment, and which is great to hear that we're using, there's some similar work happening across the space here. So these are some of the scales that are used in our assessment, and this assessment is built by Deacon for the work that we do. And there's 9 short questions, and I think importantly to note it measures in frequency, so looking at 1 week and then 3-month periods. How it's implemented, so we do a pre-assessment with families within or over the first few sessions. There is a parent version that captures their perspective and a young person version as well, which is completed separately. We have a post-assessment, which is part of the closure process. We aim to complete this early on so that we can capture it and use it as a therapeutic reflection. The scales support us to measure the impact of the intervention, and during closure, we can that really supports us to highlight the changes and celebrate the work that's happened.
So we're just having a quick look at an example of the behaviour scale that we use. So there's definitely a lot more questions than this, but this is just the first thing that you see. So this is actually a copy of the parent assessment. It's the same for the young person, it's just worded differently. But I just wanted to at least show you, so when I start talking about it, you've got an idea of it and some of the questions that we ask. This is the communication scale, which is also used. So this has just been recently added since the last evaluation that Deacon did for the program. So this is actually a really fantastic addition because it's not only looking at the aggression, but it's also looking at the communication, which is a key part in the work that we do. So in terms of doing the assessment, that's what I'm going to talk about, how we actually go through this with young people and parents. And this is probably the most important part, is how we sort of set it up and begin this process. So it's really important creating a safe and supportive environment during the assessment. As you could see, some of the questions might be confronting for young people to talk about, also for their parents. So yeah, I think it's really important how we set this space up. And I'll often do this by really normalizing that emotions may come up during this process. And a part of that, you know, to take a break or a pause throughout the assessment when necessary. If you don't want to do it the rest of the day, we don't have to. Really giving the parents and the young person control over how they complete it. Through this, it's really important we're open and empathetic with them, allowing them to share freely. If they want to go and start talking about something in specific, just to sit there and listen to them, because that's where we gain the most valuable information. It's really used as like a conversational tool. We're not there to tick a box, really. We're there to get understanding. And so really just creating that environment where, you know, it's not just us, sitting there and ticking things off. I'll often break the assessment up into multiple sessions. So, for example, you saw on the first slide, that was the behaviour scale. For a young person, if they get through that, the 9 questions and go, that's me done, I'll be like, that's the best thing ever. Thanks for doing that at least. And then maybe try again next week to do the communication scale, really just being flexible with them. It's also really important to adapt the language to be developmentally friendly and appropriate. So we range from 10 to 17-year-old clients, and some who we obviously have to create it so that they make sense of the words used, because it is developed by Deakin and is quite academic. So yeah, that's around creating the supportive environment. The next part is why we're doing it, why we're using this. So this is also really important around how we gather the information that we get from this. Not only is it about understanding the behaviour, but it's also about understanding their experience and their strengths as well. There's a lot of strengths that come out of these assessments that we can really use and highlight, and also the challenges. So going on to talk around understanding the aggression, this has been really interesting as a practitioner to understand more around is the proactive versus reactive aggression, which Travis and Ashley spoke to today. I'll get into a little example about how we can create goals from different types of aggression in the next slide. But yeah, using that assessment actually helps us to navigate and look into, it looks like this young person may be, using a bit more proactive versus reactive aggression, and then tailoring our response accordingly. So the next part, as I said, we've also gathering information around communication. So this is really important because sometimes we might have sort of lower levels of reactive or proactive aggression, but when it comes to communication scale, we can see that the parent and young person aren't really communicating about much at times. Or on the other hand, they're really great at communicating with each other, and that's a big strength. So I think it's really important not only to look at the aggression, but how they're communicating, understanding each other. So then we'll create goals from this assessment, and we can go, as we can see, maybe this is something we can work on together. And so it's a really good way to be able to set it up to say that that's why we're doing it. We're not just doing it to get the information. We're actually here to listen to you and what your challenges are and go from there. It also helps us around assessing risk, obviously, and doing some safety planning from this, which is really helpful. We might have to do a really intensive safety plan, or it might be more of a de-escalation sort of strategies. So we're getting that insight from both the young person and the parent around how their safety plan looks from this assessment. Yeah, so obviously, yeah, we can reflect on the positive changes, and it's also really helpful for measuring program effectiveness. Deakin have actually done a evaluation previously, and from that, they've added new things to the assessment and supported our work that we do. So not only is it helping families, but it's also helping the program. So this is a little example of what I was talking about before in terms of proactive and reactive aggression and how we can use it, but also how we can use anything we get from the assessment in our goals. So I've literally just grabbed some of these things from previous goals that I've done with families. So we've got some parent goals here, and this is for them to how to understand and respond to my young person's behaviour. And I think it's really important, the word understand, because we want to understand, why this is happening for that young person, what we can do to support them and also their relationship with their parents. Not just about responding with safety, but also understanding where it's coming from. And then increasing positive connection with my young person. And then we've got some examples from the young person goals. Support with my outbursts. So this is really targeted around emotional regulation. Less fighting with my parents. So supporting with, any problem solving or areas that they might need to work through together. Communicate better with my parents as well. So yeah, these are actually real examples of some goals that young people and parents have come up with from that assessment. So in terms of proactive and reactive aggression and basing goals off that, I've got a really good example of a parent that I was working with. There was a sibling group, and one young person had completed the assessment, and we could see that there was strong links to reactive aggression. And then the other sibling was showing more proactive aggression. So the mum was coming to us saying, co-regulation and emotional regulation is working really well for this one sibling, but then it's not working for the other one. So we were able to use the information from the assessment to see why that was and support with goal planning around that. And some of the examples that Travis and Ashley spoke to for the proactive aggression is understanding what that need is that they may be trying to get. Is it, more connection, more time? What is the goal that they're trying to get from using that aggression and understanding that, and using more of that, relationship building for that goal to be addressed. So this is how we have been using the assessment to help shape our intervention and hopefully, continue getting positive outcomes with our families. So it's over to Cass.
Okay, so unfortunately, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. When we're working with our young people, we do have some challenges in practice. So one of which is engagement. So some young people may just give us a flat out no, they don't want to complete the assessment at all. And then we may get to the end of the program and the parents don't want to complete the post. So that makes it really hard for us to gauge what has changed for the family. Another challenge is when parents or caregivers just want to fix their young person. We come across that a lot, recognising the behaviours as a form of violence. Depending on the parent is how what narrative they're giving. Increasing the capacity of parents and caregivers to shift away from blaming their young person for their behaviour. Parents and caregivers experiencing shame for how their young person is behaving. And that's why we love group work so much, is because these parents can come into a space where they can share their experiences and not feel that sense of shame that it's only them. Recognising there are many different variables and risk factors, and you can't isolate the work. So what have we learned from the assessment? In 2022, the assessment introduced functions of aggression to incorporate reactive, proactive, and effective. Gained an understanding of the different responses required for a proactive versus reactive, as Nadia just spoke to. We've captured data around step-up intervention, which has shown a reduction in both proactive and reactive violence. we've recognised the continued required adaptations to the framework, which we have now incorporated the program to be able to accept young people as young as 10. So we've been able to cover the ages from 10 to 12. And we always continuously review our group work and tools, depending on the people that we work with and what needs we have identified. And that largely comes from the assessments. The role of the parent or caregiver is invaluable in supporting change. In particular, we see this around young people from 10 to 12-year-olds, and relational work is essential. We need to have the parents on board to be able to help the young people. And then finally, reflection and celebration. I think one thing that we find amazing about this tool is it's a progress tool. We can see the changes that the family has made within the time of the intervention. So we need to celebrate the significant changes, the frequency, the reduction of their behaviours. If families are reluctant to end support, which does happen a lot, they don't want us to step out of the space when they're feeling like things are coming back together for them. It's important to show them that the changes they have made through working with Step Up. And we're leading the family with fundamental skills so that they can adapt that to any age group, their children. So we see that a lot with sibling groups. If we have an older adolescent that we're working with, they can then use it on their younger children as well. So it's a flow-through effect. That's it from us.